Hi, this is Rick Anthony, and welcome to the Someone You Should Know podcast, the podcast that spotlights the stars of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So sit back, relax, have a cold one, and get ready to meet someone you should know. Well, in this episode, I'm going to reintroduce you to a very talented musician who happened to be on my original Someone You Should Know show back in 2001. He blew me away back then, and his new music blows me away even more. It is just fabulous stuff. The gentleman's name from New York City, Mr. Don DiLego. Don, hello and welcome back.
Hey, Rick, how you doing? Long time.
It's been 21 years, so what you been up to for the last 21 years?
Well, there's a giant rock outside of New York City, and I just decided to crawl under it.
Oh, no, I don't think so, man. I've been following along with your music. It's just so great to be able to be back with you here. I was going in preparation for today's show. I was going through some old photos and such, and I have a photo of you and I and my late wife at Brandt's Restaurant in University City, along with Bree Sharp. That was a long time ago, but some great memories.
Oh, Brandt's, yes. Oh boy, that was a long time ago, for sure.
Yeah, I think it was about.
And I remember your wife as well. Yes, sorry.
No problem. I understand.
Yeah, I'm hanging in there. You know, you do. Here's the thing. It's a blessing and a curse, this music business thing. And the blessing for me has been that, you know, since I was younger, I always kind of had a single vision about what I wanted to do, in the very least, pursue music in some way, and whatever successes may or may not come the way was beside the point. So I've been lucky to kind of wake up every day and go, like, oh, what song am I going to play today? What song am I going to write today? And it goes a long way to keeping you out of being depressed, and that's why I look at it as a blessing.
Right. Back in those days, back in the days when we get a chance to spend some time with you, Bree was on board. I see you and she did a project prior to the pandemic that was basically a club for the East Village, right?
Oh yes, yeah. Actually, we did. We opened up. So there's a legendary rock bar there called Brownies, and that had been the home to. As a matter of fact, that was the first place I ever played. I'm from Boston, but first place we ever played outside of the city in New York when we came in was Brownies, and so many great bands came through there in the 80s and early 90s. And that eventually closed, became a couple other bars along the way, and then, you know, as I've been in New York City for so many years, you meet some people and friends, and this was kind of odd opportunity came up to, like, hey, what if we all pitch in and kind of reopen this place or rebrand it as something new? And we did. We opened it up as a place called Coney Island Baby as a club, rock club. Put a ton of money into making it the best sort of live experience for the musician that it could be, like with the best monitors and sound. And we did a lot of great things there for a very short period. I mean, we had, you know, the guys in Green Day came into the show. We had Jack White came in with his band and did a show. I mean, it was pretty special for a room that only held, 150 to 200 people. Awesome. But the pandemic did see it close its doors. They did reopen, and so it's, kind of hanging in there and doing well. We just kind of, Bree and I moved on.
Right. Very good. All right. In coordinating this work that we're doing today here, Don sent me some tracks, and I had a hard time whittling it down to just 4 because everything he sent me was just absolutely incredible. I played the music for my wife, Leslie, and she had not been exposed to you before. Now she's a big fan, Don, so you've definitely
that's amazing.
It's just, you're winning over people by this new music here. The most recent release is one we're going to feature now. It's called Dim Red Light. Can you give me the background on this particular piece? It is really a happy piece. It's a driving piece. It's just something that it's just an enjoyable piece. Can you tell us a little bit about this song?
Yeah, during the pandemic, or just before it, actually, I had written this song. It was originally, it kind of came out all in one sort of fell swoop. And it was sort of the first sort of thing I had sticking around for a while. And then one day that kind of chorus came to me with the dim red light. And the whole idea of it is, I think a lot of people look at it as sort of a pandemic, feel good, feel better about where we're headed. But that was just sort of happenstance. It just kind of played into it when the pandemic came. But my idea is there's this, no matter how dark your days may get or how tough life may be, it's just like keeping that little light shining, just keeping that little light aflame so that it'll guide you out of your darkest moments. And that's kind of the gist of it.
All right, very good. Dim Red Light is the name of the song. We're going to hear it right now on the Someone You Should Know podcast.
good just knowing that you're along for the ride. 'Cause this life ain't easy, it's lonesome fine. So let's try and keep from falling, let's try and keep our sides. It's a long, long way from the mistakes we've made, but sure walk back to the light. So when I'm gone, 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 I know you'll carry on. I'm gonna leave this world one day and it won't be long. 'Cause we're all ghosts and waiting, and there's a dim red light. But before I'm long gone, baby, I'm gonna make it shine. Yeah, before I'm long gone, baby, I'm gonna make it shine. Woo!
Great song right there. Brand new release from my good friend Don DiLego right here on the Someone You Should Know podcast. That is called Dim Red Light, Make It Shine. Don, you said you wrote this song about the time or right before the pandemic. When time comes for you to write a song, do they just come flooding in, or do you have a specific process when it comes to writing a song?
I'm very undisciplined, sad to say. I really wish I was not. I think great writing comes from discipline and putting yourself in that position sort of on a daily or regular schedule where you go, okay, I'm opening myself up to the songwriting process or the writing process, and you're going to fail 90% of the time, but you got to open yourself up. I wish I could say that I heeded to that more, but ideas come flooding to me all the time. I literally have well over 1,000 of them sitting on my phone. That's probably a daily thing that happens. But starting a song and finishing it are completely two different things. So when people say, hey, do you have a lot of songs? Going, well, I mean, I guess I have 1,000 of them, but finishing them is that's the real trick, because the adrenaline that you feel when you're creating, right, that there's a high there. So that idea that you came up with at the beginning, it's amazing. Oh, this is amazing. But you got to finish it. You got to see it to the finish line. And those are the moments where you go, okay, I put the work in. So that's a long-winded way of saying I'm writing all the time. I'm just not completing the songs all the time.
It's strange. Years ago, I talked to Tommy Shaw of Styx, and he said, it is strange. He'll be driving in his car out in California, and all of a sudden a song will hit him, and he'll pull over and start writing on the dashboard. He'll start, get a little notebook out that he always keeps in his car, and write on the dashboard, and then he'll drive a couple more miles and then write some more down. It's just amazing how it just floods in from time to time as far as and what becomes your inspiration. This next song that I want to feature is my new current favorite, and it really has a Van Morrison Moondance era vibe. I was a huge fan of that album back in the 70s, and Go Pack Your Suitcase. I'm hearing it sounds like Into the Mystic. It's kind of like you're channeling Van Morrison on there. Is that what your intent was, or was it just by accident, or did you even care, or what's the story? I love this song.
Well, that's one of my favorite Morrison tunes, like 100%. Like Into the Mystic, I grew up loving. I still love it. It's an incredible song for me personally. I didn't sit down to take that as a template and then work off of that song, but that song is a song that I got very lucky, and it came out all in one fell swoop, late nights in the studio. And I think that where Into the Mystic came into play was simply when I started playing it with a band. I knew that the feel was there, like that it could be sort of a classic sounding tune. But once the band, drums and bass kind of came in, then it harkens back to that song, not melodically, but, rhythmically. Oh, yeah. And that's always a rhythm that feels good to me. I have a few songs that kind of play off of that general thing, but that one specifically.
That particular song is like a good sipping whiskey. This song is just really great. And since Into the Mystic was one of my top 20 songs of all time, this song would probably be in my top 20 A songs of all time. Will you please sit back and enjoy this one? You're going to like this one. This is Go Pack Your Suitcase from my friend Don DiLego right here on the Someone You Should Know podcast.
stare and stare outside till you were gone. How come when it's raining you will never carry me home? How come when it's raining you will never carry me home? There's a ghost from a lifetime together. Gotta hope that it's all gonna matter. The lights are shining on you, the lights are shining on me. Now you're never gonna let me go, never gonna let me go. You ripped your shoes and then you found a note. How come when it's raining you will never carry me home? How come when it's raining you will never carry me home? Every time it's raining you will never carry me home.
From Don's album called Magnificent Ram A, that is Go Pack Your Suitcase. Don DiLego is my guest today on the Someone You Should Know podcast. Don, you've been touring for years and years and years, and one segment that we love to include here on the podcast is called Tales from the Road. This is those interesting road stories of getting to a gig, from a gig, something that happened at the gig, something that went wrong with your accommodations. Would you care to share yours?
Yeah, certainly when you do this long enough, you're gonna tally up a bunch of those sorts of stories. And quite honestly, I look at these as, I think you said this earlier, in the moment, there may not always be the most enjoyable experiences, but in hindsight, I do cherish them, and I call them the sort of the rocking chair test, which is that, when you're in your twilight years and you're sitting in a rocking chair on your porch overlooking the surrounding environment, you're thinking back in your life, what are the things that are going to make you smile? And it's going to be a lot of these. It is, I remember when this one always kind of sticks in my head. When I was in Boston, I had a band there called Standing on Earth, and we had been playing for years and doing our thing, waiting for the big local break kind of stuff. Being a lot younger and naive at the time. There was a radio station, I think just outside of Worcester, that had said, now this was, at the time, you got to understand, without the internet and everything, this was a big deal, that this radio station said, hey, we want you to play our summer jam at the local park, whatever, and we'll play on the radio, and there should be a bunch of people there. So we thought this was just absolutely a huge break. And as we were getting closer, I would sort of coordinate with the person who was putting the show together, and they said, well, we expect up to, it's at this old amusement park, and it's in a hat shell in the middle, and we expect up to, 800 to 1,500 people. Again, we just thought this was huge. Well, the day of, we drive to this park. Now, I can name this park. It's closed. It's called Whalum Park. And I think at the time, it had the oldest still existing wood-built roller coaster.
Oh, okay.
And it looked every inch of that age. I think when we walked into the park, we immediately were like, what's happening here? And up to, and I kid you not, having the Whalum Park mascot, with you could see like chicken wire through their outfit and smell alcohol and the whole thing. But anyway, we get into the hatch shell. We set up to play, and I think we were playing mid-afternoon. When we finally went on, I can say with absolute certainty that I'm not this bad at math, but I probably counted 5 people at the show, and three of them were under the age of 2. So there was two women and 3 strollers, and we would play and then a few people walking about. This was absolutely a park that should have been closed and torn down years earlier. So there weren't really people paying attention. We'd finish a song, and we were sort of almost like a grungy kind of band. It was definitely not happening for anyone, and the most applause we got was really just the wailing from the kids in between songs that we could hear. Well, we get to about the second last song, and a bunch of kids start piling up to the front of the stage. And I'm kind of looking over to my buddy Steve, the guitar player, and we're thinking, oh, all right. In the end, this is not going to turn out so bad. Okay, we had to wait till the end, but now they're coming along. Even though the kids were kind of young, we're talking like 10 to 15, 8 to 15 sort of thing. But they're coming to the front of the stage, and there's probably 60, 70, 80 of them all of a sudden at the front. And we're going, oh, this is good. They're, even though they're sort of piled to one side of the stage. So I'm looking over at my guitar player to my right saying, all right, not so bad, not so bad. And he's kind of gesturing for me to look behind me. Look behind you, other side. Well, I craned my neck over to the other side, and lo and behold, they're setting up a puppet stage for a puppet show that's going on directly after us. So the kids were not lining up to hear a single note of our music. They were waiting for the puppet show to start. And we were interfering with their timeline. So we officially opened for a puppet show.
Just like Spinal Tap.
Just like Spinal Tap, although they played for more people when they opened up for their puppet show. We played for nobody.
How many times do I have to tell them it's Spinal Tap, then puppet show?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to lead you to our next song here. This is a very happy song. It's a good driving song. It kind of has a little bit of a Queen crazy little thing called love type vibe in it. This one here is Drive Like Pirates. I love this song. What's the story behind this one?
This was written, one of the first songs I wrote for Magnificent Ram A, which came out a few years ago. I had this idea that I wanted to, two ideas. One is I wanted to do a song that was sort of a little in that vein of the Queen song, but also that had no drums in it. Like, I wanted the song to sound like it had incredible drums in it without actually having any drums in it. So that song it was made pretty much with just me and one other guy, and we just recorded 6 or 7 acoustic guitars, and then we just started stomping and clapping all through the studio and affecting those, and then stomping again. And so pretty much everything you hear in that song is just done in a day in the studio without ever having drums on it, but then having that rhythm behind it.
Wow. Which
we felt pretty accomplished by doing. And I just, that's just a song. It's kind of a song about friendship, kind of like, hey, let's stay up, beat the night, enjoy each other's company, kind of a thing. Let's, check out that sunrise in the morning. Uplifting.
All right, very good. We're going to listen to it right now. It is called Drive Like Pirates. It's from Don DiLego's album called Magnificent Ram A, and here it is right now on the So Much You Should Know podcast.
Young to the morning, carries you home.
great song right there, Drive Like Pirates from Don DiLego right here on the Someone You Should Know podcast. Don, it's important that people know where you're going and how they can buy your product and whatever it might be. Could you give us a good website for your merch, tour dates, and such?
Well, everything is just right there in my name, DonDiLego.com, DonDiLego.com. Pretty simple and inventive website address.
That's simple enough, yeah. It says it all right there. Don, one additional thing that you just mentioned in between songs and such here is you've got a project called Fantastic Cat. Tell us how this one's taken off.
Oh, so there was a band in the 90s called Golden Smog, and I was a huge fan of them. It was sort of an alt-country superstar band. A lot of the guys in Jayhawks, Jeff Tweedy from Wilco was in there, Soul Sound guys. And I always, in the back of my mind, said, I would like to do this, a version of this someday with my friends or people that I admire. So just something I planted in a couple people's ears over the time. And then I think just before actually the pandemic, I managed to wrangle a few guys, some great songwriters, Anthony D'Amato, Brian Dunn, and Mike Montali from Alice Brown. And we said, let's make a record. Let's just everybody bring a couple songs. Let's make a record. There's no stress here. There's no plans. We're not like trying to do anything. So, and we did that. And in about a week's time, we put 12 songs together, made a record, and I mixed it, and it just kind of sat there. We didn't know what we were really going to do with it. And then over the pandemic, we decided to, hey, since we're all laying about, why don't we do a couple shows? We'll do a live stream. We'll just do a couple things for fun, since this thing can exist. And when we started doing that, the response was so good. We kept going, and then a label offered us a little recording contract to get the record out, and so it just kind of keeps steamrolling along. And then CBS Saturday Morning had us on this summer on TV, so it's a great project, and we're all having such a blast with it. And it continues to sort of be a no-stress project, which I think is what's coming across to the audience. So we're really proud of that right now.
Awesome. How about a link to that website? Do you have a website for that?
Of course. So it's just Fantastic Cat Band, all one word.
All right.
And that's the same for whether you go to Instagram or online. It's Fantastic Cat Band.
By the way, we will include links to the videos and links to his website in the show notes. So look down to the bottom there. You'll see in the show notes, and you'll get a chance to definitely check out his new stuff. Plus, I want to remind you that this is 4 songs that we just happened to pick for this particular show. He has a vast catalog, and especially his very first album, the one that we featured back in 2001, Lone Star Hitchhiker. I still play Nicotine Prom Queen and New Road and The Border Song and Ohio Fight Song. Those are all still great songs, and they're timeless, Don.
Oh, thanks, Rick. You know, it's funny. I haven't played most of those in years. And I'm actually doing a show next week in New York City, and I'm sort of in between albums right now. So I wanted to do something different, and so I decided to dust off that record. So I'm going to be playing a lot of those songs for the first time in almost even over 10 years next week, and I'm looking forward to it.
I hope someone actually shoots some video from that, because I would love to see it. I did go through your YouTube catalog there, and I did play New Road for my wife Leslie, and she's going, this is what you heard. This sounds like it just came out yesterday. It's just a great song.
Oh, thanks.
It's just very, very timely. Yeah, and I just happened to be driving home yesterday, and Ohio Fight Song happened to pop up, because I have a lot of your stuff mixed in with all my favorites and such. Like I said, a fan, and that song popped up, and I'm going, my gosh, it's just such a great song. Great song. Another great song is one we're going to wrap up the show with here, and it's called The Wishful Poem, or A Wishful Poem. And it's also from Magnificent Ram A. Can you tell us a little bit about this particular wonderful song?
Yeah, a little bit more heavy concept on this one, but I like to collect old photographs. I kind of just something I was always attracted to for whatever reason, and that may include of my own family, but also if I'm at a thrift shop or a swap meet or something somewhere, and I some old photographs, especially from early photography, like when people were uncomfortable having their photo taken, in the turn of the century, in the early aughts and teens and 20s. A lot of those old photographs, there weren't people smiling. It was everybody very formal, kind of standing there, almost looking festival grim. But something about those photos really speaks to me. So I have my studio out here in the Poconos in Northeast PA, Velvet Elk Studios, and I have a long hallway with wooden walls that lead into the studio. And over the years, I just keep collecting these photographs, and I'll put them up on the wall. They're just interesting to look at, and I like to look at them and kind of envision, I wonder what this person's thinking. I'll just like point out, so what were they thinking, like right in this moment, or what went on in their lives? But it made me sort of say that this wishful poem is the idea that, hey, don't forget that when you look at an old photograph, or when you buy a new home that maybe existed for a family before that, like the lives and the spirits of those people that were there before you, they still live on the walls. I don't mean in a ghostly way or a scary, haunted way. I mean just their experiences, And so I just picture these photographs of people long gone from this earth kind of looking back at us going like, hey, don't forget about us. Like, we were here, we put our time in, and, just keep our spirit alive. And that's what a wishful poem is about.
That is really cool. I'll never forget, my late wife was really big into photography and such, as far as getting photos on the walls. We had family collages all through our house when we lived in the St. Louis area, and it was just something people would come to visit, and they would spend hours just looking at the walls and the photos. And it's just, it's nice how you can do something like that. And this song is really fabulous, and I really and truly am happy to include it here on our Someone You Should Know podcast. Just a reminder, links to the videos, links to Don's material will be found in the show notes. It is wonderful to have you back on the show, my friend.
Rick, you've always been a great supporter of mine, and I really do appreciate it. Long overdue that we got back together here.
Can you hear the old folks talking? Can you hear their voices calling? Lost in stone like fossils singing. Their melodies are dark and dreamy. Can you hear the old folks breathing? Like an old ghost on the phone, tucked inside a children's story, words unspoken, stolen motions, thoughts untold. Behind the pictures
Hi, this is Rick Anthony, thanking you again for listening to this episode of Someone You Should Know. Now, if you're an aspiring musician or an established musician that's looking for a little exposure, I invite you to drop us a line at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. That's someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. Also, I invite you to tell a friend about the Someone You Should Know podcast. I thank you for tuning in this time, and I invite you to check us out next time on the Someone You Should Know podcast, because you never know who's going to show up. Until next time, remember, God loves you, and so do I.